I'm Gwen Preston of Resource Maven, and I'm here with Macdonald of Fireweed Zinc. Fireweed's just put out some interesting news. Before we get into the news, let's set up the story a little bit. So give us the premise of why Fireweed. Fireweed's obviously a zinc story. Give us the premise of why and how Fireweed got into this situation.
Yeah, so quickly, our founders about 3 years ago decided that it was time to go acquire a zinc asset. The market had not yet heated up, but it looked like it was going to. So with a bit of foresight, we started shopping around for an asset. We ended up picking the Macmillan Pass Project, which we ended up optioning off Hud Bay. We chose this project not just because of the substantial resource that's there, but because what we saw is incredible exploration upside. Right.
So this Macmillan Pass, it's also called Tom Jason because that's what the two projects are, or two deposits are called. The geology here is something called SEDEX, and it's kind of cool that that term was actually coined at the asset.
Yeah, so the term SEDEX, standing for sedimentary exhalative, which is actually a topic of some controversy in the geological world, was coined for the Tom deposit. This style of deposit includes Red Dog, it includes Century, Sullivan. These are the giants of the zinc world. Half the world's zinc production comes from SEDEX deposits.
Right, so really important deposits. These deposits have been known for a long time, discovered in the 50s and the 70s. But zinc has been this long depressed market, lots of supply, low prices. So it saw some spurts of exploration that defined this sizable resource that you've got, but left a lot still on the table.
Yeah, in fact, the last real exploration program on Tom and Jason was in the early 90s, ended in 1991. When we started exploration this summer, it was the first true attempt to grow these resources in 25 years.
Right. So that speaks a lot to the zinc market. So for the last 25 years, prices have been low. There hasn't been a lot of effort, for example, on projects like Macmillan Pass. And that's gotten broadly the market to a place where we just have a scarcity of projects that are ready to produce new zinc.
Yeah, you know, this is already one of the most substantial projects in the Americas in terms of zinc contained. But you look at the inventory of projects that are ready to come production in the next 5, 10, 15 years, and they're just insufficient. For a long time, China has been picking up the slack, but I don't think that's a situation that can be maintained, and neither do many analysts.
Absolutely. China's cutting back on all that production for environmental reasons, and this scarcity of supply is what's driven zinc prices to double in the last year and a half.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the new results that you just put out. These are obviously ongoing drilling, but there's a particular aspect of it that's exciting about specifically Tom East. So
so this is the last batch of results from our summer work. Includes 2 holes, TS17006, which was drilled into the lower end of the Tom West zone, and the more eye-catching hole TS17007, which was drilled into the Tom East zone. The significance of Tom East is that this is a high-grade area representing probably about 7-8% of the whole project that has about double the zinc equivalent average grade, whereas the project broadly averages about 10%. Tom East is about 20% or more on average. So we had high hopes for this hole, and it really hit it. It was really great results for us.
Right. So I mean that's really interesting. 10% zinc equivalent sort of broad grade on the various deposits that make up the resource up there, and then double that grade over at Tom East. So first of all, that's interesting geologically in terms of what's going on, and second, it's interesting that this area hasn't seen, in terms of the work that was done here historically, it's a little bit harder to access, so it hasn't seen a lot of work, so sort of the best area left for you guys to delineate.
Yeah, and the area we drilled into was just hard to get a drill hole into, so we were pretty happy. You know, the expectation was slightly less than what we drilled. The interpretation here was a kink and narrowing, and what we showed was that actually the zone might be broadening there. This is interpreted as being vent proximal or even the vent feeder system, which you can tell because it has that classically high lead and silver levels.
Right, exactly. And being close to the vent, like you say, is really important. That's where you can get thicker systems, and that's where you can, more importantly, get really high grades.
Yeah, and the importance of this in terms of not just pulling the average grade of the whole project up is, in our eventual PEA, which will come out in March, these high-grade zones, particularly Tom East, which comes to the surface, they can be at the front of a mine schedule and allow you to front load your economics. And that makes a big difference. If you're doing a back of the envelope calculation, assuming a consistent grade, it does not tell the whole story. When you have these high grade zones you can start with, it really changes the complexion of an economic study.
It certainly does. And that brings us to the next thing clearly that's coming up for this asset. You did a bunch of drilling, you'll recalculate the resource, and then you're going to wrap economics around it, which I think is really important because the comment that people make about Macmillan Pass is its location. It's got a road, but it's, you know, a fairly long road. If you can wrap good economics around this asset, it demonstrates that the size and grade of this deposit does overcome, I think will overcome, that particular challenge.
Yeah, so our resource update will be coming in December, and then the PEA ideally, I think it'll be probably early March. And you know, we're excited about this. We're excited about taking a historic resource and making it current, and showing people that the historic resource was not some wild calculation, that it was legitimate. And we're excited to show people the first NI 43-101 PEA for this project. And I think that it's going to catch people by surprise.
Right, for the strength of its economics, and then right now you're showing for its potential resource expansion.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you can show that there's good margin on the tons that's there, when you then demonstrate expansion potential, people know that's gravy. And they know that that's pure upside. Yeah,
I think that's important. If the tons that are there, if the PEA shows that they already make sense, then you grow it, that's all bonus. That's all economic upside from there. Perfect. Well, congrats on the results. It's a great way to end the season, and we look forward to lots of news flow in the next little while.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.